Happy New Year, everyone. Somewhat strange start to the year, but if there's one thing we're really lucky about, as anglers, we can still get out there and do some fishing. For me, the year hasn't started too productive, and that is mainly down to the seriously cold conditions we've experienced. Pre-Christmas, sort of back end of November, did get out and make a short film about my approach going into the colder months, what I do in terms of venue choice, locating the fish in the cold weather, and bait choice and stuff. And it was a really productive session, but it was when the air temperature and the water temperature were not completely sub-zero. Since Christmas, we've had some really cold weather. Many lakes have been frozen, lots of areas have been covered in snow, and most mornings waking up going to work, I've had to defrost a very thick ice off the car. However, it's a new year, and I still want to get out there, I'm sure like a lot of you, and still get a bend in the rod, still get a bite for some carp. It's not impossible, but it is a lot more challenging. In fact, I'd go as far as saying January and February are the most challenging months of the year to still get those bites from the carp. How am I going to still achieve that? Well, I've been out a couple of times this year already, some just short sessions, few hours here, few hours there. I've been to some commercial type venues that are heavily stocked. That's really, really important. You know, you're realistic about your expectations and you go somewhere with a decent stock of fish. And I've managed to nick a few bites, which has been nice. And I've also been going down to my local park lake, Rochford Reservoir, which around 10 years ago now, wow, that makes me really old. We actually filmed episode 2 of Urban Banks there. I blanked on the first session down at Rochford Reservoir. The lake was 3/4 frozen with ice. And yeah, try as I might, moved a couple of times, was very observant, looking for signals and signs. They certainly weren't giving themselves away, and I didn't manage to catch at the end of that day session. What they did at the back end of that day, the last sort of half hour before dark, is they did show, and I saw probably 6 to 8 shows, which is a real vital key bit of information at this time of the year. I went back down a few days later and did manage to nick a few bites, which was really, really nice. It's really nice to be back out. It's still freezing cold, but not quite as bad as the other day when I came down to the park lake. Yeah, gleaned a really important bit of information during that last half an hour of the previous session, and that was a few shows. At this time of the year, if you do see a show or you see activity in a particular area of the lake, it's very likely that those carp aren't going to travel far. So I've got back into the same area. I'm wrapped up at 11 wraps, 2 rods are out in the zone, and yet I'm confident that they haven't travelled far. It's certainly a lot more to go on than the previous session, where I never saw anything, never saw any bubbles, never saw any shows in the early part of the day, and was kind of fishing blind. The net result was I didn't catch anything, so much more confident today. When I got home after that last session, I thought I'd just take a quick look on Google Maps, and interestingly, might be nothing in this, but the area that those fish were shown, it was quite consolidated. It looked a lot darker, potentially deeper. On the cast, I'm getting about 1.5 meters, it feels, on the drop. So yeah, let's hope they're all stacked up out there, huddled together, trying to stay comfortable, trying to stay a little bit warmer, and that's the zone where hopefully I'm going to get one of those white citrus hook baits picked up. Another tricky day. Giving it a few hours now in this particular zone here where I saw those fish showing last time, and it really is quiet. Not had a single liner. Did catch one little bream, but this is not bream banks. However, in the last 15 minutes I've seen 2 signs of activity just to the right of the island, so the opposite side to where I saw those fish showing last time. There's a lot of cormorants working the water. There's a chance they could have been cormorants, but my gut instinct is telling me, go and have a wander around there. Yeah, basically have a move. There's no point sitting here. I'm certain my tactics are right. I'm really happy with my rigs and my presentation and stuff. It can only be I'm not on those fish, and at this time of the year, you need to be right on them. I'm gonna head round there and give it a go for the last couple of hours.
Well, that didn't take long. They didn't show in that same area, but I did see a couple of shows just to the side of this island. Come round here with a couple of rods, flick that little white pop up out into the vicinity, and I've got one on. Really nice feeling. This will be my first proper carp of the new year. And it's still freezing, freezing cold. Yeah. Well, that move really paid off. The rod couldn't have been in the water more than 15 minutes. It just goes to show quite how important location is at this time of the year. I didn't make a bait change, didn't make a rig change. It was simply a case of getting on them. Yeah, right result. 12mm citrus pop up, little tiny white stick bag. First proper one of the new year. Had a big smile on my face.
So even though I blanked that first session down at Rochford Res, I never blamed my tactics, my bait choice and stuff. It was more about, were the fish really feeding in those freezing conditions when they're so torpid and not moving? So yeah, there's the start of my year. Been out a few times, managed to nick a few bites. What has really changed though from that session at the back end of November? Number one, I've switched over to white citrus. Throughout the year I use a lot of pink. It's a great colour, but more so than anything, it's just the in vogue fashionable colour at the moment. There's trends over the years and stuff. 1 minute it's yellow, then it's bright orange, pink, and it is very much a trend fashion led thing. Pink is a great colour, it's caught me hundreds and hundreds of fish. But at this time of the year I do switch more over to white. That may well be because I'm doing more sort of canal and park lake sessions, and you can't not but notice the amount of this bread that gets thrown in there. Those carp are swimming around in those more urban environments. They see white as a natural food source because of the amount of bread that gets thrown in. Therefore, selecting a white hook bait, something like citrus, is a very good choice. On those kind of venues, I will fish with potentially just 2 or 3 or 4 freebies around it. I'm certainly not throwing handfuls in. It's too much for those fish to feed and digest. And I will more often than not just fish with a very, very tiny stick. I've gone down to the 18mm webcast now at this time of the year, so the smallest one we do, just to provide a tiny little bit of attraction around, for example, a 12mm citrus pop-up. So they're my tactics that I've been applying over the last sort of few sessions I've done this year. Taking the white out of just park lake and urban fishing though, it really is a fantastic colour to use at this time of the year. Why? Well, if you take a look outside now, it couldn't be any more dull, dreary, gloomy. And the same is going on down underneath the water. You know, the bottom of the lake beds, the bottom of the canals and stuff, you've got dying weed, dying blanket weed, you've got lots of leaf debris and build up over the autumn period. And yeah, if there's one colour that stands out better than anything else over those dull, dreary bottoms, it is a white hook bait. So not just on the park lakes, not just on the urban venues, my fishing now over the next couple of months will primarily feature white as a hook bait choice. Why else is white such a great colour? Well, I've mentioned how commonly used pink has been over the last couple of years. Just doing something different from the other anglers, for example using white, may well stack the odds in your favour. So there's my thought process for bait choice over the next couple of months. I will be utilising the white almost exclusively. I think it definitely stacks the odds in your favour when the temperatures are really, really cold. If you've managed to get out already, I hope you've seen some success in 2021. If you haven't, I wish you the best of luck when you get out there on your next session. Just try and remember, keep those session times to a minimum. It is freezing cold. Make sure you select an appropriate venue with a decent stock of fish in, and give that white citrus a try. I'm sure you won't be disappointed.